Hey, welcome back everyone. So in today's video, I want to talk about proportions with you, give you some ideas and some ways that you can progress with this and hopefully rein this in if your proportions are all over the place. And keep in mind that what you're looking at here obviously is stylized, that I make exaggerations as I go. So I just did this sheet, I put it on my DeviantArt for a free download if you want it. And I did like a variety of proportions. I love doing that because to me, if I'm going to tell a story, I want big people, little people, I want muscular, I want overly muscular for hulking characters. I want a variety. So I purposely go into it with a lot of variations of proportion. So if you're drawing more traditional work and more realistic people, then you're going to go back and you're going to do like a 7.5 heads tall. I think at one point it might even been 7 heads. I think it's 7.5 is the accepted canon. But you're going to think more historically about the this particular part of it. Again, I go for more comic and gaming style characters, so to me, I'm going to exaggerate more. So I just want to start the video with that, and also just keep in mind that over the years there's been a variety of artists that have been credited for different proportional units of measurement to the body. So I'm going to cite something I found on a website for you. In the Greek canon by Polycletus, the palm of the hand was chosen as the preferred unit of measurement. Marcus Vitruvius, a 1st century BC Roman architect and writer, believed that the height of the figure was 8 heads or 10 faces. And then Leonardo da Vinci demonstrated many of Vitruvius's ideas on proportion in the well-known image of the man superimposed in the circle, referred to as the Vitruvian Man. And so that's the one that I always think of, and the one that I think is probably the most widely accepted or credited as the true canon of the human body and measuring the body with different parts of the body. But honestly, I don't know. I guess I've always gravitated more to the 8 heads tall, and then I've learned from Andrew Loomis, which is obviously years and years later and stuff like that. But so look at these different source materials, take it for what it's worth. But as we get into like stylized drawing, know that generally we just move these things around. So I'm creating a blog post on my website too where I explain these things and share more of these art files. That's actually where this particular one started from. So if we go down and use the heads tall model approach, you can look at 2 heads over, 2 heads down is roughly, not exactly, the placement of the nipples. And then if we go to 3 heads down, this would actually be where the navel is. So I've got it a bit lower. Again, I'm moving these things around intentionally. Once, I raised the hips on the character. Now, think about that in terms of if I raise the hips of the character to make her legs look longer, then I really have to decrease even the arms. I'll get to that part in a minute, but it changes all this, right? I still landed on 4 heads down for the lower pelvis. Okay, so that's something I generally typically do. I think in the 7.5 heads tall model, though, when you go 4 heads down, it actually lands about here. And you can check that online. Just Google that or go to Pinterest. There's plenty of reference there for that. So, because they typically don't draw the legs as long. Now the other thing is this: is that it's probably just a good idea to consider the lower pelvis as somewhere around the halfway point of the character entirely. Again, I've got longer legs on this one, but that's really probably a really good basis part. In fact, a lot of times when I draw the character, I'll do this kind of thing. I'll V out the upper body, I'll get the lower pelvis, and I'll go right to that 4 heads down as my starting point. The next thing I look at is the width of the shoulders. Now, for the characters, generally, you can take the head and turn it sideways, and 2 heads side by side, the width, the height of the head turned to the side, 2 of them, is generally the width of the shoulders. For heroic characters, I'm definitely going to go past that. I just do. So that's something else to look at. But this is really the starting point. This little diagram right here, that's actually pretty much my starting point for proportions. Okay, and then I just build out from there. Lightning bolts for the arms. Well, it depends on, this is, what is that, pronated, so you're seeing the back of the palms. You can do the lightning bolts for the legs too. I think I went did I go the wrong way? It always feels like a minotaur when I do this. I really don't use it as much for this type of pose. I do more like this, this. So just a shorthand method for how I work through this. Okay, just I know it's pretty bad. But there's that. So if we go over to the male character, did we do, I didn't do the 6 heads down. So if you go 6 heads down, you're going to get to the knees, usually bottom of the knees. And then the very bottom is actually to the heels. So you see the feet protruding out, but I was actually mapping to the heels. Now, one more thing before I go to the male character. You see with the female character, the arms are longer. Now, what I feel kind of leads me down this path is the fact that I started by drawing the hips up higher like I wanted to, giving her longer legs, smaller torso essentially. But what does that do to the arms? Now if I don't bring the arms up, then it doesn't look proportionate to one or the other. So it's like maybe these arms are more proportionate to those legs. I think they're still a touch big. But so what I mean to tell you is that when you do adjust something like that, it does have a down chain effect, right? Cause and effect kind of reaction to the illustration. So that's where you have to just be aware of it. Like a good example is look at J. Scott Campbell's work. He does these, cool looking women with long legs. What looks disproportionate is probably the smaller arms, or I don't know, maybe it looks better because he's proportionalizing to one thing or the other. You can't can't proportionalize to both really. You could split the difference, I guess, but generally, some styles you'll see something that sticks out, and so he's got these long legs on the women, which looks great, but he, comparatively, the arms look small. The reason being, generally, our arms go down to about the lower portion of our pelvis like this. You'll either attach the hands at that point, or the hands will be roughly up here. So, and again, this does vary, and this varies greatly in real humans. Like, so boxing is a good example. If you watch boxing, you'll see parts where they go, yeah, these guys are both, 6'2", but one guy has a 3-inch reach advantage. It's like, what? Because if we look at like the Vitruvian Man, one of the things that's showing by that perfect circle of the body is the harmony between the arms and our height, but it doesn't show it that way. But if you put your arms out left to right and measure fingertip to fingertip, generally it's your height. Mine's actually dead on. I'm like 72 both ways. Well, the thing is that some people just have longer arms. It's really great for boxing. It gives them probably an unfair advantage. But it's just they have long arms, so they get an advantage there. Well, the thing is that that's apparent, right? We know that to be true. And there's all sorts of other proportional differences, obviously. But what I'm saying is that some of these things you'll need to like test out in your characters, and it's just going to kind of play true even if you did realism. That some people just have longer arms. Some people have bigger forearms, or like human Popeyes, and all this stuff. So comic art, you can just take take it really far, obviously, but it's good to be aware of this stuff. But yeah, like to me personally, the more I look at this, I'm like, wow, her arms are too big. I'm gonna go back and edit this one. So there's that. And again, one shift in what you're drawing can and often will send you down a bit of a rabbit hole kind of effect, and you need to be aware of what choices you're making and why. But the neat thing about this is once you start to do this and practice this, it gives you a sense and a basis of understanding, so that now you're not just drawing whatever, whenever. That's really the biggest reason to practice this. So with this character, you can see it, let's see, forehead's down. It's even lower than the pelvis. So again, as I mentioned before, the traditional way it would be more like here. So you see I brought up the pelvis way too much. But again, it's because I like to make these longer, bigger legs on the characters. I purposely widened out the shoulders. I like the look of this character. I think this is a heroic proportion that I would use. But again, it is off a little bit. Like it started right here probably with the working down with the chest. So you can see by going from the second head down, I'm at the lower portion of the pectoralis, which again, traditionally, this would be where the nipples are. So the chest would be lower, like this. But one of the reasons I do that is because I tend to do this stylized torso like this. And because of that, the data, the information, the height has to come from somewhere. And in this case, it's eating up some of the chest. So what I could have done is brought all this lower, brought the lats lower, and just widened out the character, really. I mean, he could stand to be wider. So, again, all these things just have a systematic effect on the rest of the proportions. And that's really it. Like, it's a matter of playing around with these different variables, drawing different character types, seeing what the females would look with, wider hips and wider legs, a smaller, a real common proportional difference. I kind of did it with this one up here, is where the female has wider hips but a really small upper body, small shoulders and everything. So there's a bit more of a tapering like this. You'll see that a lot, and everything in between, right? It's mainly trying to put you down the path of, say, first being aware of how you would measure certain things, but then going a lot further with it, and then experimenting with lots of proportional differences. So at any rate, hopefully this video was informative for you. I'd love to know what you think. Keep in mind, I have that course content on my website that you can check out and learn more. I really appreciate the support. It allows me to continue to bring you free content here on YouTube. Thanks so much for watching. Good luck with your art, and bye for now.